My name is Manus Mens, and this is a training video on how to use the cattleproduction.org.za. It's the second training video. There's also a first video to show you how to log into the system. So this is a short overview video to help users to use the system on a day-to-day basis. First, just a diagram to show you the design of the system. Once you add it to the database as a farmer, you will find your details in the system as such. You can add your own farms, one or more, or even if you rent a farm, doesn't matter. You can add it to the system as well. And at the end of every year, every production cycle or every production year, you will add your annual statistics and the status of that farm in terms of a various number of factors that influences production, rainfall, etc. A farmer can also load all his cattle, and on an ongoing basis, as new cattle arrive on the system, you can add them to the system in terms of a cattle number, the male or female, birth date, and so forth. Then the crux of the system is all about weighing cattle, as explained on our website. And once you weigh the cattle at that point in time, also to classify it as a calf or a bull or whatever the case may be, so that one can analyze the herd construction. All right, to explain the classes a little bit better, these are the classes we have in the system. You'll recognize most of them. It's quite simple. Most farmers have got an idea and already apply this to some degree. So calves, bulls are easy, lactating cows, pregnant, and dry cows. A dry cow is a cow that's awaiting to be serviced again by a bull in the coming months or year. And then young stock is typically young stock that's less than 2 years old. Store stock, older than 2 years. In other words, you're planning to sell them at 3 years or 3.5 or 4 years. And then slaughter stock is old cows, typically 11, 12 years old, that you just fattening up to get sold off the farm. Okay, so let's get into the system, and this will become a bit more clear. So after our first video, you'll know how to log into the system. I've saved my bookmark on Google Chrome like this as a little button there for myself, and I've saved my password and so on, so my email and password will come up, and I'll just click in and sign in. Go back to the original email and the first video if you get lost there. Once you're in the system, you'll see this blue mark at the top, your name on the right where you can reset your password, and you'll arrive in the menu on the left-hand side in the dashboard. Here you're able to click on a few things. It's very straightforward. You click here to watch the first training video if you want, and the second one that this video is now busy recording will also be here. We'll add more things here as we go on. All right, as we receive more data and it becomes more interesting, what we can share with farmers. Next option is to load your master data in the system, and first of all, you check your personal details. We create it on your behalf when you sign up with our database. There's my detail. You'll not be able to see the other farmers' details here because otherwise it will get confusing and you might update the wrong details. So check that your farm, cell phone number, and so forth is correct. And then you load your farm. So this is the first step of where you actually enter some data, put in the farm name, number of hectare, including, whatever you use on the farm to graze, like let's say crop fields and so forth, normal annual rainfall, and then the address of the farm. Okay, next one is cattle. All right, and here's where you literally load all the cattle. If you've got lots of cattle, hundreds or thousands of cattle, we will help you with the initial load by importing it on your behalf. You can contact us and send that detail to us on a spreadsheet. All right, so let's just do an example here. I'm just going to type in any old number so that you can see you can cater for any cattle numbering system that you might use on your farm. And here you put in the sex and then the birth date. Let's say this is a cow that's a couple of years old, and then you put in the birth date. That's important. The system automatically creates a unique cattle number so that your numbering system that coincidentally could be the same as another farmer's numbering system will not clash with each other. All right, let's submit that. Okay, next up is the report. So you'll see these little lines and small arrows are reports. So all my farms will show in the my farm section. You can edit it from there. How do you edit a record in these type of screens? You click on the little button on the left hand side and say edit. Very simple. My cattle all right, so there's a list of all the cattle that I've created in the system. Again, I've got these little buttons on the side, or I can highlight things, and delete them and, print them or export them at the top there. So the screen is very user friendly to use. If I want to sort data, then I simply say, okay, sort it by this, sort by ascending. So it's very similar to an Excel spreadsheet, for example. If I want to group stuff, any column, I could say, group by ascending, and then I can group it by male and female and so forth. If I don't like any of that, what I've done, I just untick it and I start over again. Okay, so easy to use these screens where you can see data on the right hand side. You can export the data as well if you want to work with it in Excel, because remember there can be lots of lines here if you've got lots of cattle. The plus at the bottom right is also to add a new cattle, then you don't have to go back to the cattle form on its own. Okay, moving on to the most important part of the system, and that's to weigh. All right, to weigh your cattle. So let's say this is my first start in using the system today, and I've just weighed all my cattle in this last few days. So now I'm going to record all their weights to start the production weighing cycle. I'm going to obviously say which farm it's on, all right, because I want to separate it between farms. There's different rainfalls, different areas. Production year start. All right, so this is the start of the 2020. I'm now currently in 2020, so I will weigh all my cattle as a starting point, and then as I sell more cattle later on, I will use the out button to weigh them off the farm. That is, if I buy cattle during this coming 12 months, I will use the in option here on the weigh type to load them onto the farm. If I weigh more regularly during the farm, let's say I move cattle between camps and I want to every time weigh them when I move them between camps, I use the regular button. Okay, and there will be some checks and balances here to prevent you from making mistakes or making duplicates in the system. So let's say today I'm weighing all my cattle. It's an annual start of my production cycle. I'm starting in 2020. When I repeat this exercise in July next year, I will choose 2021 and I will do an annual start again, to weigh it on an annual basis. So now I'm going to add the lines, and if I've got 1,000 cattle, then it's going to be 1,000 lines on the screen now. All right. So I'm going to say this is maybe a calf at the point of weighing it, and I'm just going to use one or two very quick examples. It doesn't really matter if it's accurate or not right now in terms of the classification, but it's important that you classify it correctly. So what is the classification of this number at the point when you weighed it, so that we can see what is the construction of the herd, for example. Okay. And now I'm going to submit it. So you carry on adding all your lines that you've weighed on this date, and do the same during the year if you sell cattle, etc., and move cattle onto the farm, having purchased new cattle and so forth. So it will take me to the next screen. You can see it's kind of highlighted here on the left-hand side, my weights by date. Again, I can change the layout of these screens. I can sort it in columns and I can check it up. And if I want to edit some information, I can edit it here and go back and if I made a mistake or a finger error, I can check it. So the system helps you a little bit to see what you've weighed in total for that particular date. And this is same information, four forms with the same information, just in different layouts. My weights by cattle. So if I weigh the cattle more than once over time, I can check it, and there that would be a good example of a duplicate, and we will prevent that in the system. But you can see here, you can manage how you've weighed your cattle and check it afterwards every time. Okay, so this one is a weight by production year. So in 2020, these are the cattle that I've weighed. Some of them went off the farm, and that was the annual weighing and so forth. All right. Right at the end, annual farm status. So at the end of your production year, you will pick the year that you worked with. That would be, in this example, July 2021, but you'll say it's the end of production 2020 now for the same farm. All right, what was the actual rainfall? All right, so you must keep record of that. And then the rest of this form is fairly self-explanatory. As you read it, you'll find it easy enough to fill it in. So there's your calving percentage for this year on this farm. Very important that you keep track of that during the year and give us the accurate number, because that will be a huge factor in production. Breeding philosophy, out of interest, do you breed with a single breed in this year? Remember, from year to year, a farmer might actually buy in different breeds of bulls. So you can say, well, I've got a crossbreed with Afrikaners and Beefmasters or whatever the case may be. Do you provide extra feed during the year? And there's some details about that. Veld data, very important. Many farmers are practicing high-density farming or grazing. You can fill in the details here as best you can. If you don't have the exact detail, you do it as best you can and submit that details every year for your farm. That's as simple as that. Please contact Marnus if you've got any questions, or you struggle, or you find any error message or anything in the system that you don't understand.